Hi, it's Tuesday, March 15th, 2016. Today I'm going to be talking about runaway credit and how life as we know is under threat from runaway credit or debt. I don't want to sound alarmist, but I think I need to cover this subject. I'll start out with a comment or a quote from John Pierpont Morgan, or J.P. Morgan, back in 1912 at the Peugeot committee hearing at the U.S. House of Representatives. He was asked what gold was, and he said, "Money is gold and nothing else." There are other versions of this quote, and some people say that he said money is gold and everything else is credit. But I think that's a misquotation, but it still serves as a good point, in my opinion, because back in 1912, money or cash was physical gold or gold coins or silver coins. And everything else, was credit, like banknotes or Federal Reserve notes. After 1912, they were promissory notes to pay someone with the cash, which meant, physical gold or physical silver, and you had to believe in those notes, That's why it was credit. It's called credit because it comes from Latin to believe, credere. So that's why it's called a credit note or a credit market, because you have to believe and have faith that the person who's presenting you with that note or debt will be able to pay you in something real. So there is a big difference between money and credit, as you can see. And even nowadays, though, we call banknotes or bills, we call it cash, even though technically it isn't. They're promissory notes, but we've been conditioned to believe that it's cash as well. And what else? Under a gold-backed system or a gold standard system that we had back then, the credit market, there was a credit market, of course, in a modern industrial indirect exchange economy. There is credit and discount bills of, discount bills. Let's say you took credit for 3 months, and then you produced a good and you delivered it after 3 months. And then you got paid and you could pay off the banker. So you made real goods and you got credit. Usually it was a 3-month cycle because of the seasons. The same thing with agriculture. You grew, food and you sold it. You took credit to buy the seeds and to run your operation. And then when you sold the food, you were able to pay off, the bill of discount. And the debt would be extinguished, and it was all based on real goods, and that was under a gold standard. And there's also other credits that were created, but gold always acted as an anchor to the credit market because it was something real. It was not something that you could conjure up out of thin air like with a fiat money system. And under a fiat money system, especially that we've had since 1971 for the global monetary credit system, if you look at John Exter's pyramid, where cash is at the bottom or gold, under the gold standard, that pyramid is limited. There's a limit to how big the inverted pyramid grows. But under this fiat money system that we've been since August of 1971, when President Nixon closed the gold window and the Bretton Woods system basically collapsed. We're not under a Bretton Woods system right now. We're under the fiat dollar, petrodollar system, basically. the Exeter's pyramid is mushroom massively, and the tip of the pyramid is very, very wobbly at the moment, and you know, it's still gold in my opinion. De facto, we're still under a gold standard, even though people don't think of us being in a gold standard. But if you look at all the major countries and their central banks, they still have a lot of gold in their vaults, supposedly. The problem with the system now is that it's, you know, there's no anchor to it. So we've had major crisis in the last 45 years only because this runaway credit is gotten out of hand many times. You know, like in 1987 when the stock market was booming and then it crashed, and Greenspan came out and like pumped the system. 1994, you know, when the Fed started raising rates again from very low levels, it crashed the system, almost bankrupted Mexico, had to lend money to Mexico. It created, you know, the boom from the mid-90s to 2000, 2001, tech boom, dot-com boom, and that crashed in 01, 02. And then, you know, Greenspan saved the system again, cut rates down to 1. That created, you know, the subprime mortgage property market boom that started bursting in 2007 and bottom 2008. And then came Bernanke and all the other central bankers, cut rates to 0. Now they're cutting it to like negative. And they're printing money with QE. They've created trillions and trillions of dollars. They've kept the big international banks alive with their huge almost, I would say more than a quadrillion in OTC derivatives debt. The only reason is less than a quadrillion now is because the Bank for International Settlements changed the accounting procedure of OTC derivatives to mark. They marked it to maturity and not to market. And if we've got more than 1 quadrillion in OTC derivatives, and that's just like 6 to 10 banks. So the reason I'm talking about all this is that credit is it's a very important part of a modern indirect exchange economy. And what I mean by that, it's an economy that's based on different people, actors, you know, companies making different things, specializing in different manufacturing, different services, and exchanging those goods. But to exchange those goods, we need money and sometimes credit to make it, you know, that exchange smooth, because, you know, it's very difficult to barter, as we know. So in our modern economy, where even me, you know, I don't have a farm, I can't grow food, I can't milk a cow, I need to depend on money to buy things that I can't produce. So that, and credit provides, you know, a very important and useful system in our modern system, because, you know, it allows people who are producing things or consuming things, or producing things and consuming things in the, to pay off that debt through production. And the problem that we've got under this present fiat money system is that credit has grown uncontrollably, and the central banks, they've created artificial credit in order to save all the shenanigans created by the big international banks. You know, artificial credit they've created, all the programs like TARP, you know, the QE, and now what the ECB and Mario Draghi is doing, you know, LTRO, the negative interest rates. This is all to keep the, you know, runaway credit bubble from collapsing. And this false credit is going into things like OTC derivatives, which we have over a quadrillion in the world. It's going into financial engineering, like buybacks, private equity, and like real estate, you know, all the big bubbles, so to speak. And the actions of the central banks in the last, well, since '09, have just shown desperation, that they're trying to keep themselves and their agent banks from collapsing and creating all this artificial credit. And a breakdown of this system would threaten our way of life. And it's really irresponsible, in my opinion, because, you know, they're trying to save a system that doesn't add any wealth to the real economy, you know, like OTC derivatives, private equity, financial engineering. That only shuffles money around. So they're putting at risk the credit system that is needed, you know, for basic necessities like food, energy, and transportation. You know, they're putting that at risk. You know, our basic modern necessities. They're putting that at risk, and all this could disappear overnight because they're trying to keep these casino banks alive through artificial credit. And now I wanted to touch upon an article on Zero Hedge from October of 2015, and they're talking about, you know, how people are talking about banning cash now. And they had some interesting information in that article. And basically, according to that article, the U.S. financial system, the total physical cash in the system, according to them, bills and coins only, was $1.36 trillion. And then short-term and long-term deposits was another $10 trillion. Publicly traded stocks, $20 trillion. U.S. bond market, which means federal, you know, corporate, municipal, and state bond markets, $38 trillion. And then you have total credit, other credit market like mortgage backed securities, CDOs, junk bonds, certificate of deposits, 58.7 trillion. And then OTC derivatives, 220 trillion. And I'm sure that it's more than that, you know, the derivatives. But if you add all the total credit and debt, that's 336 trillion in the U.S. economy back in October last year. And total physical cash was 1.6 trillion. So that means, you know, the credit market is leveraged 247.5 times to 1. I mean, it's crazy. No wonder, you know, they want to ban physical cash. So you can't take, you know, because that pyramid has become so bloated. And even using M1, which I took from the St. Louis Federal Reserve website, and M1 includes, you know, physical cash and coins, but also some other, you know, kinds of money. M1 includes notes and coins not in circulation, and it includes also demand deposits, and even including that, which adds up to 3.1 trillion. We're still seeing the U.S. credit market leveraged 108.5 to 1. So can you imagine, you know, as Jim Rickard says, one snowflake can cause eventually an avalanche. You know, one credit event could disrupt this whole 300 trillion plus credit system. And can you imagine trying to pay? There wouldn't be enough physical cash at all for the economy to function. And, you know, so what will stop this runaway credit growth? Well, it's very simple. The only thing that will stop runaway credit growth is debt default, debt destruction, which would mean, you know, complete economic collapse or depression, you know, and you know, it's a very dangerous situation in my opinion, you know, and because nowadays, you know, credit is such a part of everything in life. You know, you've got student loans, consumer credit, you know, credit cards, mortgages, business loans. The world would come to a halt if the credit market, you know, was disrupted and collapsed. You know, we wouldn't have enough physical cash to function. So I think it's a very serious situation. I mean, the only people I can think of that would be whose lives would not be disrupted would be the Amish people, because they're self-sufficient. They generally are not into modern technology. They have farms and but even they would probably notice. So that's worrying, you know. There's so much credit out there, you know, and everything is like hanging by a thread, in my opinion. And that's the reason why these central banks are so desperate with all their, you know, it seems like stupid and unconventional policy of money printing, negative interest rates. It's all very worrying, and it's no wonder that there's been so much talk by central banks, academia, Keynesian economists about banning cash, because I think they know that we're close to a point where you know, a withdrawal of cash from the system will completely, you know, destroy the credit market and would disrupt our lives, you know, as we know. It's a worrying thing, but I thought I'd put that out there and let you know what's going on. Have a good day. Take care.